is the 28th of January 2020 and I've come to visit Wisley where we have our bonsai collection, and as you can see this is called the Herons Bonsai Walk and we've been sponsoring the bonsai collection at Wisley since 1997, which is a long time. And we come here usually once every month, every 2 months to tend to the trees and see to the trees. So there are 38 bonsai here, and today we are going to check the trees over, and already our colleagues here, Padma is seeing to the garden trees, and then we will check over all the other bonsai to see whether they're okay. So let's have a quick walk around. Lovely sunny day today. Just to show you the size of some of this tree. This is a Chinese elm, massive Chinese elm. This is the same species that is sold as an indoor bonsai, but we always reckon that the Chinese elm grows better as an outdoor tree. So there you are, beautiful tree. They don't get any protection. They're left out here and it gets minus 10 degrees sometimes, and it survives well. We have quite a few tridents here, and all the tridents are very high quality. Look at the Nibari here. And these have all been developed, that's from stock that I've had since 1990. We imported them as tiny stumps, and all the branches and all the taper from here to there has been developed since 1990. So this tree has been here maybe about 8 or 10 years. We change them every now and then, so we're changing a few trees today. This is my very favorite large forest. One of the few forests that was made with tall trees back about 30 or more years ago. And people always used to laugh at me because we had forests which were so tall. Never before had they made forests with such tall trees. So that is a large. This is a large mountain maple. It's made from one of our field-grown trees. And you look at the ground cover here. This is a ground cover that we've made with just ordinary creeping juniper. Because moss is very difficult to grow, so we grew juniper here to make it look like moss, and it works quite well. This again, ordinary Scots pine, just an ordinary Scots pine that we grew in our field. And look at the Nibari on this. We deliberately keep it pot bound. We don't repot it too often because by keeping it pot bound, and as long as you feed it, you get this beautiful Nibari root structure. Really old tree. This is a big mulberry tree, and it fruits and flowers every year. Again, just have a look at the raking. The Wisley staff are very good at raking the gravel. We taught them how to do it. This is the ordinary beach that I made when I went to Herons in 1986. I dug it out of my hedge, and this is the tree that was made. In literally 5 years, it became a very nice bonsai. So this is an ordinary tree from our hedge in the front garden. And these are our lanterns that we display here. These are one of our Bouverensis dwarf Scots pines, and again ordinary tree that we made to bonsai. Some of them at our own nursery. We don't convert all of them into bonsai. So it's been chopped only once, and a new leader was taken up, and then you see another leader here. So it's quite a large tree. For public displays, I believe in using large trees. Small trees, if you put a small 6-inch bonsai in a public display like this, it doesn't look right. So look at it, it looks grand, absolutely grand. This is one of my very favorite tridents, and with the sun shining, can you see the beautiful, powerful base that it has, and this euro, and it is healing over. It may heal over completely if I'm not careful. I will probably take this tree back to repot because it hasn't been repotted, you won't believe, for about 10 years. So I'm going to take this tree back to have it repotted because it's time this tree was done. a Japanese larch that made from one of our field-grown trees. Hasn't got a lot of ramification yet, but it's a nice tree. Japanese white beech forest. This was imported from Japan about 30 years ago, but it has grown a lot. It was only that high, but it's become twice as tall. One or two of the trees have died in it, but it still looks very credible, very nice group. And some of this liverwort we've got to get rid of. So this is what we come here to do, you know, we got to do some maintenance, so we're going to get rid of this liverwort. So this we will scrape off. This is just an ordinary crab apple, one of the hundreds that we have on the nursery. We put it here because it flowers and then it's followed by lovely fruit, and people always marvel at the fruit. This is one of our root over rock trident maples. Again, it's been here for many years, and mind you, it doesn't get any protection, and people think that trident maples need protection, but these are surviving very well without protection. And this again, one of our field-grown mountain maples that we've created from scratch. Just shows what you can create. This has got lovely autumn color. I'll try and get a picture of it in the autumn when it was very red. Again, the lovely junipers you can see with the rocks. And it's quite effective, you know, the substitute for moss. And there you are. This is what we get for displaying it here. This is our sponsorship of the Wisley Gardens. Now let's move to the other side. There's lots of touches of Japanese garden here. Water basin, rocks, another beautiful trident. We love tridents. They have this powerful look that they look like. And to show how we can produce bonsai from ordinary trees, this is just a very ordinary larch that is one of our field-grown larches. And again, I produce these large trees because they have a presence. When you have a large tree, they look right. Another of our homemade trees, this is an Austrian black pine. I remember repotting this here about 3 or 4 years ago at Wisley, and it hasn't been repotted since, but again in very good condition. And again, one of our indigenous trees, not imported at all. So more than half the trees here are all homemade trees. One of our Chinese elms, large indoor trees, but grown outside here. And if we can just have a look at this beautiful oak, I always love admiring this oak tree. And what a contrast with these bonsai, right at the end of this bonsai walk. Now this is another of our Bouverensis pines, again a homemade tree. These trees I imported from Holland in 1980 as ordinary garden trees. They were only about 3 foot high. I cut them down to 18 inches. There's a chop there. And the new leader was grown. And I created all these pads. And it just shows what you can create. So this has been about 1980, 40 years in the making from ordinary garden stock. This ginkgo never ceases to amaze me. The ones we have on the nursery never flourish, and yet this one doesn't get any special attention. It's just left out here throughout the winter, throughout the summer, and it's a classic ginkgo shape, and it thrives here. One of our Chinese junipers. I think this tree I should take back because I need to take it back to have the wires taken off the tree, because the wires are probably biting a bit too much. This is the tree from my book Bonsai Masterclass, and this was produced in 1987 from ordinary garden stock. And in this tree, if you come close, this was a new technique I was trying back in 1987, where I took 2 branches and wrapped the 2 branches together, plaited them to make one thick branch. So this was made from an ordinary blows juniper in 1987. And there you are. homemade tree. These are trident stumps that I made. This is less old than the other ones. This probably about 30 or 40 years old. This is a Japanese white beech, Fagus crenata, and I display this because it's got lovely ramification. I know I should cut it down to about a third of the height, but because of the ramification I leave it, because in nature the proportion of the trees to the head is about right, but when we grow them as bonsai, the thickness of the trunk is really a bit exaggerated. If we look at this tree and the outline, and then we look at that oak tree there, if you can see the similarity, the proportions, the trunk and the head is quite similar to what you would get in this bonsai. So although this may not be a very classic bonsai shape, it is more natural in shape when you look at ordinary trees. So ordinary trees don't have a massive great trunk. Very few trees in nature, unless they're really old, like 800-900 years old, and the tops die, they have this beautiful canopy. So this is what I was trying to copy in making this Japanese white beech. That is our Rigida that has been here for quite a while. I put this picture on Instagram only last week on our Herons Bonsai site. And that is the winter color, slightly brown, and that browning is due to the winter frost that plays on it. Another lovely crab apple with a beautiful trunk. So we've still got some fruit on, and the flowers are very beautiful. So this is a good example of a crab apple. Be a very good example. And this is a hollow trunk Satsuki azalea. It's exposed to a lot of the cold and hence it's not covered with leaf, but it again looks very, very healthy, so I'm not worried at all. And I like to use this tree for display because it's got this lovely hollow trunk. If we home in and look at it, look at the beautiful detail of that trunk. And bonsai, when they look old, they have a special attraction. This is a twin trunk mountain maple, again made many years ago by fusing two trees together, and this tree was made about 30 years ago. One of our root over rock Chinese junipers. Again, this color is the winter frost blush that you get when the frost affects it. So the outer edges of the foliage is brown, but if you go inside, look at how green it is inside. Where the frost doesn't get it, it stays very green. So this is worth pointing out. This is one of our multi-trunk Teishojo maples, and already if we come close you can see some of the new buds. Despite it being exposed to all the hard frost, all the new buds are already beginning to appear, and it's only the third week in January. Look at it, all the new buds are starting to appear. Lovely multi-trunk Teishojo. One trunk did die, but I'm not too worried about it. Again, I haven't repotted it for a while, but I think it can remain for another year. And finally, this is one of our garden trees, Texas Puspidota, Japanese yew. These trees are very, very valuable because they are very hard to get and they cost quite a lot to buy from Japan. But I donated this to Wisley back in 1997. So there you are. I hope you've enjoyed this little tour.